Welcome everybody to my new course. In this course I'm gonna teach you how to create this sci-fi scene from scratch in Unreal Engine 5. The first thing that I'm going to teach you is how to think and how to get inspired in order to create this scene, how to create the composition for the scene, etc. The second thing that I'm going to teach you is how to block out the scene by using only cubes in Unreal Engine 5. This is one of the most important steps. After that, we're going to start scattering some Quixel Megascans assets in order to create the mood of the scene. And finally, we're gonna add more mood to the scene, some color, we're gonna fix the lighting of the scene, scatter some more objects, and in the final stage of our scene, we're gonna set up the final color, we're gonna put a post-process effect, then we're gonna take our still image into Photoshop, apply a few filters in order to correct the colors and shadows. And by the end of this course, you're gonna be able to create this scene from scratch and roll now. Okay everybody, and welcome to my new course. In this course we're going to be creating this scene in Unreal Engine 5, but in this first lecture I want to talk more about how I got inspired to create this and what are the basic rules that I follow in order to create this. So the first thing and the process is to Google and search for references and get some ideas. I mainly use Pinterest as a website that I got more ideas from them. And the first thing that came up to my mind was I want to create a winter scene and I want to be some kind of sci-fi with an astronaut and maybe a sci-fi vehicle. And then when I think about it, I like to be in a cave, for example. I put this as a checklist. So I want to have an sci-fi elements. All right, this is the first step. I want to be in a cave. I want to have something interesting as a story. I want to have a vehicle. And I want to play with lightning. As lightning, at least for me, is maybe 50% of the scene, maybe more. To think about how to create the lightning is very important, and you have to approach this from the start. When I create this scene, I approach it with first in mind the lightning, what I want to achieve with the lightning. So let me just delete this one. So this is the first one, to create a checklist for yourself, guys. Create a checklist, pinpoint some things like the sci-fi element. I want a cave. I want this astronaut to be there. I want to have a story. I want to have a vehicle. Maybe this vehicle is abandoned. Maybe it's broken. Maybe our astronaut got hit by some enemy forces or stuff like that. And in the final, lightning, which is one of the most important thing, at least for me. So let me tell you how I approach this scene. The first thing that you need to keep in mind is you need to think about the composition of your scene. So here are some basic rules about composition. So in the first picture here, all right, the steel yard, you have the balance between big and small. As you can see here in our first composition example, you have big tree and a small one, which makes the balance and which makes the eye of our viewer to go first to the big one and then interact with the small one. So this is a good composition that you can use. Here is the same element, a big tree on the left. You always place it on the left side of your image, somewhere between here. Of course, you can leave some air over here. And you need to place some little objects in order to give the picture meaning of scale. All right. The second is the balance. All right. Here in the second picture, our left side is perfectly balanced to our right side. Here is the same. So in those images, we have the balance in mind. We have what we have on the left. We should balance it out with the right side of our picture. Let's move on to the circle. The circle is pretty simple. You have in your image, maybe here in the center, a circle, or here, like in the clouds, you have circle clouds. All right. So this is something that you can do with the circle shape. One of my favorite is the S-curve composition, which leads the eye just like that, the S-curve. Perfect composition, very interesting to create. So you create different S shapes. You can create this, or you can create this. or let's find one more with the S. This one is S-curve. As you can see, it's not only the road over here that you can create with S's, but you can also create your composition of the tree. For example, here we have our crown, and it's going over here and creating this perfect S-curve. Here is another example for the O. Over here we have O in the center, which is the space, the airspace between those two elements, this one and this one. All right, another perfect composition. Here we have the big and the small, big on our right side and small on our left side. Another thing that you can do is triangle composition, just like this one, or you can use this one to create in the middle space, again, a triangle. This is leading die over here, and this is creating triangles. All right, so you have the pyramid of triangle. The other composition that you can use is cross, which is also pretty simple. You have a horizon line, and you have something to stick on 90 degrees onto the horizon line. So we have here a few mountains, and we have tall trees, creating this cross composition. All right, another pretty interesting. And keep in mind that here we placed our boats on the left side. So if you are going with the rules of 3, let me show you. If we're going with the rules of 3, we place our boats here in this section on this line. All right, just to create this composition. I'm going to talk about rules of 3 just later on. And here we have a little square over here, which is the free space between those two trees, which is perfect for the eye and comparing those trees. The next is the radiating line, and this is so old school. All these compositions are so old school, and they go through the ears. All right, radiating line, you have your object in the center, and you have radiating lines over here, just like those clouds and some rivers over here, and creating this kind of perspective. And of course you need a horizon line over here. Here is our horizon line, and here we have our radiating line in a little bit S position. All right, just like this. Pretty cool. And another thing is you can make the L rectangle perspective, which is a tall building on the left side or on the right side, just like this. And you use horizon to create the L shape, just like here. So this is the L composition. You place something on the left, on the right, and just creating the L shape of it. Again, a little example of triangle. And this, what is this, guys? This is L composition. We have the trees, we have the horizon line, and this is radiating lines because we have lines over here and going over there, going over there. All right, so those are a few compositions that I want to show you, and here a little bit more. The one that is very important, at least for me, is the rule of thirds, where you can place objects. For example, you can place objects in that part, in that part, in that part. If you want to give your viewer an accent of it, you can place your object over here, or you can place it on the crossing lines over here. And I'm going to show you what I did with the composition in my scene over here. But this is the rule of thirds which I used for my composition. Of course, you have golden triangles, golden spiral, which is one of the most famous in the traditional drawers. And you have a lot more diagonals. You have the cross that we've already talked about. You have a facial mass, V arrangements, the L style, the circle, the pyramid, the S curve. S curve is pretty good, I think. At least I use it a lot. And you have harmonious triangles, golden triangles, etc. So let me show you what I did with my composition. First, I placed my object over here in the center because I want the viewer's eye to go over there. The next thing is I've created point of interest, which is this tree. So my story is how this tree in this Arctic environment was alive one day, and maybe this is a biomass on another planet, not on planet Earth, and our cosmonaut is amazed by this. The next thing that you need to take in mind is that this tree, in order to grow, it needs light. So I place this tree in my light, and my light is going from above, from here. So our tree can grow up when it was alive, thanks to this lightning gap in our cave. And the next thing that I want to emphasize in the scene, the background is just a fulfillment in order to create this this icy rock environment. And the thing that you should keep in mind is that when you create such rock and maybe a cave, you need to leave some parts not with ice, because it looks more natural. Just like this, I left some stones without ice patches, and all those elements are from Quixel Megascans library, but you need to arrange them perfectly. And of course, I'm just creating those ice packs over here, clean, ice pack, clean, and I have a little pattern over here of creating ice and creating rocks. And of course, I'm breaking the pattern over here with another ice because I want a little bit of difference. And here, let me just create one more layer. And here I just create a little thick ice, and the angle of it is, let me just show you the angle. The angle is just like that. I didn't want to have it straight 90 degrees because it's too boring. So I've created a little bit of an edge. Here at the far end, I put a little light over there in order to create this, this shine effect on my rock, like this is the end of our cave. All right, guys? So you gotta think a little bit of the composition before you start, but of course through the process you can get more and more ideas. The next thing, let me just get back here. So we've talked about our main character over here. We've talked about our story point, the tree over here on another planet, and we talk about the different things that I did with the background. I intentionally leave here at the bottom everything in dark black, because I want not to emphasize over here on this area, but you can see we have some ground elements, and I used vignette effect for this. And here I placed a little bit of rocks in order to create height in our scene, not to be super flat grounded, just like that. And the final thing that adds a little bit touch to our scene is our ship. So we have three elements that are our pinpoint in our scene. The first is the cosmonaut. The second is the story line of why this tree is there. And the third is the vehicle of our cosmonaut. So what is the purpose of the vehicle? Adding a little bit more to the story, how he get there, what is his vehicle, why is he here, is he from a sci-fi dimension, which is obviously is, because we don't have this modern vehicle in our world right now. And the other thing that it's pretty cool is I think about how to lighten up the vehicle. And I lit up the vehicle by creating a little gap hole. Let me just draw it, a little gap hole in the roof, and just put the lightning over our vehicle and just on the front of it, because it's looked like a little bit of dragon. This shape is like a little dragon with a jaw over here, and it's pretty nice shape, and I want to emphasize on it in order to get the feel of sci-fi vehicle. The other thing that I did is I've placed here a light which lighten up all the things inside, the interior, the steering wheel, etc. Because I want to show the audience that this is a functional vehicle, that it has some elements, some interior elements. So this was my thought process. So I used the rules of thirds, and I placed my main character over here in the center. I have a storyline with the tree. I have his vehicle over here, and I place the vehicle on the line, on the thirds over here. I want to center it to that line in order to create this good effect. And that's it, guys. This is my thought process. Of course, it gets deeper and deeper when I think about it, why I should have, for example, here a little bit stagey eyes, just like that. I create a little bit of shapes like this. And this is just to break the silhouette of our scene. In order to create different shapes, we have here different shape, we have here different shape. I'm thinking always about shapes. We have here a different shape, all right? We have here a little bit of eyes. We have here a little bit of different shape, all right? We have a little small rocks over there beneath our ship. We have a little bit of a level over here. So everything should add to the details. And another important thing is you need to keep the center clean, because if I place too much details, for example, over here, it's going to distract the viewer. And right now I have a little bit of detail, a little bit of frog showing under the snow, but in general, I want to keep fresh snow over here without much of details in order to emphasize on those two objects. So this is about lecture number 1, and this is how I got to the point of creating this one. And it turned out pretty good for the time that I've put. Thank you guys for watching the first lecture, and I see you in the next lecture when I'm gonna explain my process of creating this. I'll see you in the next one. All right, everybody, so we jumped straight to Unreal Engine, and what I want to show you is how I've created the level and how it looks over here. And this is just to show you what we're gonna achieve as a final result. So this is my final result over here with the camera movement and everything that I've created. Of course, I've run it through a few Photoshop filters, but in general, this is my scene. Let me just walk you through it. Let's just put 2 for camera movement. So this is my scene, guys, and this is my sci-fi astronaut. This is my tree. Let me just put the speed to 4. So this is my vehicle, and let me show you the real level, how it looks like. It's pretty ugly over here because we are creating a still shot and we don't want anything serious and anything to look good. We want only the shot from this angle, from this particular angle, to look good. So what I did is I've put some 3D objects over here with some spiky eyes in order to create this light over here. As you can see, pretty good light and pretty interesting one. And for my vehicle, I've done the same over here, some spiky eyes things, and I just lit up this one, the face of our vehicle. And from this angle, which is this one, it looks like a dragon. It is not, obviously, but from this angle, it looks like a dragon with a jaw over here, which I get to look pretty nice. The next thing that I did is I put some lightning inside the seat of our ship over here, and I've put just on the right side over here, because the right side is mostly visible. The left side is not so much visible. I put 2 green lights just to add a little bit of elements, and I've put some lightning over here to my cave bag in order to give those eyes and rocks some lighting up. All right, so let me just show you what I've used over here. So this is my project, and I've put my assets over here. I have a cinematic camera, I have some directional light, exponential height fog, I have a post process, volume quad, etc. So what I use for this level is I used Quixel bridge over here, Quixel bridge. And let me show you which pack did I use. You go to collections, environments, natural, And let me see. I used the Arctic ice and snow, yeah. So I downloaded all those photo scans over here, and I used the snowy stump as the element of interaction, and I used those cliffs pretty much, and some of the textures over here. So those are pretty much the things that I used, and I used this astronaut and this vehicle. The astronaut and the vehicles will be included in this course, so you can freely download them and just put them into your scene. All right. So this is how my scene looks like inside Unreal Engine. All right. Let me just give you one more peek. All right. Pretty damn good. And let me just show you how it will look without post-processing and without exponential height fog. If I turn off the height fog, you see how the scene got it got ugly because you don't have anything to create that kind of mood. So you always need to use, at least for still images, a little bit of fog to create that kind of mood, and the fog interacts with the lighting pretty good. And this is my post process. See how different the mood of the scene is with post process. Without post process, everything is burning. You have pretty intense lightning. This is not some ice level. It's not telling us that this is ice, and it looks pretty ugly, at least for me. And when I turn on the post process, bam, you have this nice looking scene with that nice look cold ice feel and this nice look bright lightning over here to emphasize on our character. So in the next videos, I'm gonna start explaining on my pre-recorded videos how I achieve it, and you're gonna see it step by step how I did manage to create this. And before that, I want to show you how to manage your asset folders. The first thing that you need to do is you can create a folder characters and assets, and you can place the astronaut and vehicle over here. I've tried to create some interaction with an alien over here, maybe placed over here, but I didn't like it because it's breaking up my story. But I'm gonna include this alien to the project also, which you can use and create something with it. Maybe place some small aliens over here. You know, you can make some small enemies and place them over here, just like that, in order to create some kind of intense. It's up to you guys if you want to use it or not. I'm just going to include it here. Of course, everything here is for personal use. You cannot sell those models because those models are purchased and they're not for reselling. But anyway, create your character and assets folder, put your astronaut over here and your vehicle over here, the 3D models. And let me just quickly show you how you need to set up the materials. The first thing that you need to do for the astronaut material is you need to connect this texture to the base color and the normal over here. Pretty simple. I'm going to show it in the process. And for the vehicle is the same. You have 4 textures. This one is in the emissive channel. The first one with the orange stuff is in the base color. This one is for the specular, and this one is for the normal. I've linked those textures over here. I'm going to show you how to link them. And you're going to create a folder with the name levels, and you're going to place your level over here. And you need to download all the Megascans assets that I've already shown you. So this is pretty much how the project looks inside Unreal Engine. And let's just start creating it in the next lecture, guys. Thank you for watching. Alright, so let's just get started to business. In this lecture, I'm going to show you how I block out the scene. And as you can see, I've already laid out some foundation blocks, and I'm just using Unreal cubes and just scaling them in order to create the space where I need the cave to be. and I'm just putting the cubes on top of each other in order to create the roof. And here, as you can see, I've created some pretty nice space, and I've already integrated and put my astronaut inside. I'm going to show you how you can integrate your 3D model later on in this video. So the blocking phase is pretty important for each project. You need to start with blocking in order to get your scene right, because if you straight jump to place your assets, you're going to be lost, and you don't have this guide visually where you need to place the assets. So that's why you need always to block out your scenes. Never skip this step. This is one of the most important steps when you're creating a scene. Now I'm just putting everything into folders. Let me just create a new folder, and I like everything to be arranged, so I place my 3D objects here in the assets folder. And what I need to do right now is I need to play a little bit with the lightning, because I need the lightning to penetrate from the top. So what I will do is I'm going to select this directional light, and I'm just going to play with the rotation of it. Of course, you can use Control and L on your keyboard and rotate it, but I prefer to use the rotation X, Y, and Z. This is just my method of using it. So I'm just tweaking up the lightning in order to get this lightning penetrating from the top. Something like this, maybe, because I want my astronaut to have a real good lightning on it. And of course, later on, I'm gonna play a little bit more. But this is only the blocking phase where I need just to block everything out. And as you can see, I'm just simply moving cubes, moving the blocks here and there, and trying to figure out what will be the best position of everything. And this is important because when I go into the later phases where I need to put all the objects, I'm gonna use those blocks as a guide, and I'm just gonna place my objects over there based on my guides. And of course, always try to tweak some stuff on your lightning. Trying to figure out everything in early stage is not possible, because a lot will change with the process. I'm going to create a new folder and call it vehicles, and now I'm going to import my vehicles. I'm going to select my textures and my vehicle FBX file, just drag and drop, click import, close this, and double click on your material. So let me show you how you can connect your material over here. Just select your textures and drag and drop them over here, and you need to plug them into the responding nodes. So the first one is the normal map. I'm gonna put it in my normal channel. This is my diffuse, which is gonna go into the base color. This is an emissive channel, so I'm gonna need to put it into emissive, and this is my specular. All right, I'm gonna click save, and my vehicle is ready. And then I'm gonna drag and drop it in the scene. Of course, it is pretty small, and I'm gonna need to place it near my character in order to scale it up to get the right size of it. Let me just select my astronaut, scale it a little bit like that, because I want the cave to be massive. This was my thinking process when I start. I want the spaces to feel big, and in order to feel the spaces big, your character need to be smaller than that. And I'm gonna create the scale of the vehicle, and I'm just matching the seat of the vehicle. If my character will fit in it, he can be seated pretty well. And now I'm gonna place my vehicle over here. So in this first stage, as you can see, I'm just blocking out with cubes, and I'm just placing my objects across the scene. And intentionally, I'm not recording the complete process, because I want you guys to sit and start your blocking after this lecture. And this is the thought process, and this is my layout, how I want to be. And I've already told you in my lecture number 1 that I've already have the picture inside my head, how I want the composition to be. Of course, you can change the composition, and you can start creating your own layout, of course. So thank you guys for tuning into this lecture, and in the next lecture, we're going to continue. All right, everybody, welcome to this lecture. In the previous one, we block out everything. And in this one, I have my Quixel Megascans back inside my Unreal Engine. And I'll just start to place all the assets inside the blockout. As you can see, the blockout is guiding me on where to place my objects. And I'm just choosing different objects and testing how it will look. My main thing when I start a scene is first I'm gonna place the snow on the ground. As you can see right now, I'm doing this. I'm just testing different shaders. Of course, later on we can change this. And my second step is to start blocking out the wall in front of my cosmonaut, because this will be my first checkpoint to see how the scene will feel and look. And I'm doing this by simply drag and drop different assets and try to place them and mix them together. And of course, I'm just testing out a few things with the spaceship too. The video is speed up on 150% just to save you a little bit of time. And here I start to block out with using the ice cliffs. And of course, you can scale them up how you want. And I usually turn off the snapping option on the scale, rotation, and transformation, because I want to move them freely and have this fidelity in the movement. And as you can see, I'm starting to get some shapes over here, testing, scaling it, of course, testing how it looks. And as in the previous video I've mentioned, it's all about the blockout phase, the first phase. The blockout phase from the previous video is driving me on how to arrange everything here and how to do it. And here I'm just placing a little ice over here in order just to blend the elements. And the most important thing is to test and not give up. Test everything, just scale, move, and think logically how this environment will be created, where the ice is placed, etc. Of course, it is a good practice to use a lot of references. Maybe if you have a second monitor, you can load up a lot of ice levels and just use the references in order to create your scene. I'm using some references on my second monitor, of course, and I'm just peeking at them from time to time. All right. So here I'm placing a little bit of snow. And as you can see here, it starts to blend pretty good. Let me try one more over here. But the problem with the second one is it will start to get pretty repetitive over there. But for start, this is very good. The first thing is populate the scene, try different aspects of the scene, and then you can start and change some of the meshes over here, delete them and replace them with another one. And right now, what you see here is I'm just blocking out the wall. As I told you before, the first thing that I want to do is I want to block out the wall in front of my cosmonaut in order just to get the feel of this cave. And here I get pretty decent result very quickly. And let's try and create a little terrace over here. This is pretty important because I'm trying to break up the repetitiveness. And as you can see, I'm just duplicating those objects and I'm just scaling up and down and try to create this kind of effect. I want to have different floors like build up into the cave, and I want them to be connected with the ice over here, and that's why I'm gonna place here another ice. Let me just scale it up. And everything is just testing, scaling, rotating. Keep in mind to turn off the snapping of your tools in order to get this great fidelity. And now, as you can see, we have pretty nice blend when I build up this terrace. All right, pretty good, pretty nice blend. Of course, later on, I'm going to change that because I want a little bit of different look. But this is the kind of process that you need to go through. You need to test, you need to proceed, you need to delete, you need to scale. And that's how much it is. And of course, like I told you in my first lecture, this is all built up before I start building up the level in my mind. I already have a plan and I visualize how I want to look. And this is just the exploring phase where I'm just exploring and testing different stuff, how they will look over here. And here I want to create a little bit of snowy effect here with those spikes, but it's not going to work. And this is the moment when you realize that you can use this to create the shadow from the roof. All right, let me just duplicate one more and fill up here. Maybe place it a little bit of here just to break up and have a little bit of depth. I'm just gonna remove this box, and I'm just gonna continue on by placing another object over here. And as you can see, the process is pretty straightforward. The only thing that can stop you guys is just your initial preparation. If you're not prepared for it, and if you don't have a plan how you want to look, you're gonna struggle because you will not know where to place some things. And another important thing, if you want to break up the same elements, you can rotate them downwards, just like I've done with this ice element. And as you can see, we are building up two different ice elements from one. And of course, I'm gonna add a little bit more details here in order to break it up and remove this repetitiveness. Just like this, rotate it over here. And if you don't feel like it's looking good, don't force it. Just delete this object, try another one, try another one. The thing is that you need to try a lot of things fastly. And as you can see, I'm pretty fast at blocking out the scene, and later on we're gonna polish it. So we just have in our first lecture the blocking out with boxes. This is the second phase of blocking out where we use actual models. And after this phase is done, we're gonna reblock it, we're gonna delete some objects, we're gonna place some new objects. So don't worry if it's not going to happen from the first block out. You're gonna at least have the big picture inside, and that's the most important thing. And as you can see, I'm tweaking some small stuff here. Still not very good, but it's getting there. I get the feeling of it. And let me try some other things for the floor. Of course, you can do the ground with Unreal Engine terrain. You can just build up a terrain and apply a shader on it, or maybe apply a shader that has multiple variants, and you can sculpt the ground. But I preferred here to use the plane because I can place some of the Quixel Megascans in order to break up the floor. But it's a good practice to use Unreal Engine default landscape and just with a brush tweak it. And you can create a multi-texture material and then paint different textures onto this material in order to get a good effect. This is also a good practice, but I'm not using it here. And as you can see here, I'm using objects and I'm just rotating them crazy. It doesn't matter on which degree. I'm just testing out how it will look rotated like that. It is supposed to be downwards, but as you can see, I'm just rotating and trying different stuff. And if it's not going to work, you just delete it and proceed. But you need to iterate fast. As you can see, I'm iterating pretty fast and checking constantly how it will look. All right, I didn't like this one. And now I'm gonna create my point of interest, the tree. But first, I'm gonna need to create this. And this is guys, a pretty straightforward process. The most important thing is to have a good preparation and to iterate fast. Keep in mind that this is my first pass and we're gonna iterate a little bit more. Of course, you can multi-select objects and just move them. And after you finish with blocking out your boxes, so I've put here a few things, a few objects, and then I delete my box. And this is simply because I've already defined where my items or where my objects should be, and I don't need the box anymore. So I'm just deleting them in order to start getting the real scene over there, because boxes sometimes can cover holes which you need to fill with objects, of course. And I start to create the roof over here. And as you can see, I'm just rotating the cliffs. And another thing, in order to keep the shadow good, is you need to go to the material of this cliff. So I'm just gonna double click here, and you're gonna search for two-side. You need to turn this on. And what this will do is, because our rock is hollow, when people scan it, they did not scan the back faces. And two-side will enable the back face so that the lightning won't penetrate the model. All right, this is pretty important in order to get this shadow working. And that's what I did. I turned on the double side faces on this particular piece of geometry, and you can do for each geometry that you download from Quixel Megascans. And also they provide a few other options. And this is my first pass of creating the top, the roof, and trying to build up this lighting that I told you before, that 50% of the scene, at least for me, is how you will build up the lighting. And here you can see I have few gaps over here that I need to fill up, and that's why I deleted my boxes in order to start creating some final pieces and not having those gaps over there. And of course, I'm just blending and copy pasting the previous object. Let's see how it goes. And I'm gonna place this spiky eyes, and I'm gonna turn on the two side faces for them too, in order to start and create some pretty cool shadow effects. So let's try and rotate this, and you're gonna see in the shadow we are creating that some nice spikes over here, just like that. Place them over there, and of course you can rotate and you can blend. I'm here blending the shadows. I'm not watching the actual geometry here. I'm just watching what is happening on the ground. How is the shadow blending? And as you can see here, I start to get the feel of it, that this might work and it will look pretty good. And let me just block out a little bit more. Let me just rotate this and let me blend the shadows. I'm just blending the shadows and I'm just building up the roof of the cave. And it's still pretty rough. See that how our roof is not looking good, but think like that. We won't see it at all because I'm gonna place my camera at the floor level and I'm just gonna ignore the roof. All right. So it looks pretty nice right now, but I need to build up more of these shadows. And I'm just gonna place this one too in order to create those spikes. You can, of course, use scale, rotate everything that you want over here. And if you watch the floor closely, you can see that I'm building up these shadows and blending between them. And I don't care that I have this geometry which is not looking good at the top. And right now I build up a little interesting shadow over here. Let me place this pile of snow over there. And I'm just trying to blend in with the rest of the snow. And if it's not blending in, you can of course delete it and place another object. Just get rid of it. Don't push it. Let's see how it looks now. It looks pretty good. And let me try another object over here. And I'm gonna try and place this to my aircraft, to the vehicle. But I think it's not looking that good because this is more of a human snow created, like from a machine or something like this. Maybe this could fit, but something like this, just a little bit like that. It looks like our ship just dig into the snow. That's at least my idea when I build up this. And of course you can tweak everything. So this is the first phase of blocking out, and it turns out pretty good, I think, for the first pass. And in the next video, we're gonna continue on and create the next pass. So here I'm just creating some final touches in order to blend the ground. Here will be my camera around here. I'm still deciding where my camera will go. You can set up a bookmark for your camera with Control 0 on your keyboard. And after you click Control 0, when you place your camera, you can click 0 and your camera will be focused at that point. So this is pretty handy hotkey that you can use. And finally, let's place this pillar over here and just close this video. And this scene will turn out to look pretty good. Thank you for watching. Bye. Alright everybody, welcome to this next video. In this video I'm going to continue on with the scattering of the objects, and I'm going to start tweaking up a little bit of the fog. Of course, everything about the fog, the settings, you can get access to them through the resources file that I've included in this course. You can just get the final setting for the exponential height fog. Here I'm just experimenting with different values and different setup of the fog, and it's a good practice to tweak and try to fine-tune all the settings in order to get your final result. And I'm just playing with them in order to try different setup of the mood, different colors of it. And I highly encourage you guys to try very different style of the fog. This is how you can end up with some cool results without even thinking about them. So always try different stuff, different colors, like bright yellow, for example, or just right now I am just testing the bluish color because I want to feel cold this scene. And of course, I just set up this exponential height fog pretty quickly in order just to get the mood. And I'm going to continue scatter the objects and fine tune everything. So here I'm just placing some more scant meshes over here in order to create a little fall off between the ground and the rocks over there. I want to blend them in order to look good. All right, so from this distance, this blending is pretty fine. And of course, guys, continue on breaking up everything, but don't put too much details everywhere because you're gonna have a little too populated scene, which will drive the eye crazy. I'm just placing a few more stuff over here. I intentionally recorded all the process because I want you guys to see the complete process without cutting all the parts that I'm exporting. As you can see, I've test with different stuff, I test with different angles, and this is just part of the process creating environments for a still image. And as you can see, I'm just moving and tweaking with more fine tuning right now, as I've already have my first pass and I'm just exploring how my second pass is going to look like. All right, so I'm just using the scale, rotate and move tool prime most of the time. And let me try different shaders for the ground. I'm just selecting my plane, and here I'm just trying different textures in order to see how they blend with the rest of the snow. Of course, this is a good practice. Test everything, and you can also tile the texture from the material settings. Here I put 4:4 and the texture is start tiling, as you can see here on the ground. And I'm just seeing this is an icy ground and I'm just testing. I'm just changing now the tiling to 3 to 4, but it's not looking pretty good, so I'm just gonna go and try some other stuff. This is granite, this is the ice that I've put, this is maybe like a lake, river, icy lake, which is not working great with my project. So this is just the experimenting phase where you try different stuff in order to see if it's going to work or not. So just try everything that can came up to your mind in order to get the result that you want, of course. And that's why I downloaded pretty much all the assets in order to have this huge, rich library with from which I can just check the materials, explore, and test in order to get my final result. All right, so I'm just gonna stick maybe with this one, and I'm just gonna try and change it to 5 or 6. You can change the tiling to different stuff in order to get the fine tiling of the ground, how you like it. So here I'm just experimenting with the material tiling, and I don't like this snow, so I'm just gonna delete it and just put the spaceship a little bit down. All right, so this is the final ground that I'm gonna have, the texture, and I'm just playing with the color of the material, and I'm trying to blend this column with it. Here I'm just grabbing the column color, and I'm just fine tuning a little bit in order to get and blend them together to look more natural. The other method that you can use is just place the snow over there and just try to blend it with it. So this is pretty straightforward process, guys, but you need to take each step on different passes. So the first pass to block out, the second pass to scatter some elements, some models on based on your block out. This is my third phase of scattering objects and just fine-tuning some of the details. So this is pretty much for this lesson. What is the most important thing is you can tile your texture through the material, and the second important thing is try to blend your meshes together and try not to put a lot of dense detail across your scene. So thank you guys for watching this one. I'm waiting you in the next one. Welcome everybody to part 6. In this part we're gonna continue scatter some object across our scene, and we're gonna get some more final look of our scene. I've speed up the video a little bit, like 50% more, in order just to save you some time. But here I'm just trying to blend the snow into the ground a little bit more. Of course, this will all fade out when we tweak up the fog, but I need to create some good edges over here from this angle, and I'm constantly checking my angle of view. All right, now I'm placing some more big objects, and that's it, guys. Pretty much straightforward process. The hard part is to tweak everything and to have the good composition of it. That's the most important thing. Right now I'm just trying to create some rock around my camera, around the focus of my camera. And let me just check it out how it looks here. It looks pretty saturated over here, and later on I'm just gonna remove some objects and we'll fix them up. And here I'm trying to scale up and just blend a little bit more these rocks, just like that. And this is still exploring phase. I mean, I'm just still exploring how things should look like here, and what the composition of different elements should be. And later on, when we progress, you're gonna see that everything will look a little bit more cool. And I've worked a little bit more on the fog, and of course you can find all the settings of my fog, of my lightning, of my post-process effect inside the resources folder. And this will save up a lot of time for you guys just to set up those things with my final settings. All right, here I'm just trying to place some interesting snow over here, and I'm just gonna tweak a little bit the angle of the spaceship in order to make a good contact with the ground and in order to have a little bit of shadow. And I'm just trying to create some little interesting color variation with that black rock over here and the snow of it, but it's not working, so I'm just deleting it and continue on with the iterations of my ideas, guys. So I hope you are enjoying the process of creating this, and I hope you're learning something. So now what I'm doing is I'm just setting up everything to look good from this angle. All right, I'm just rotating and scaling, pretty straightforward. So right now, as you can see, we have few problems. The astronaut is not at the perfect place, all right, and the spaceship looks good, but I need to add details on the left side in order to create this cool variations because I duplicated two same elements. And when I put this pillar over here and I scale it up in order to give it a little bit of depth, you can see that it blends perfectly and it breaks up the repetitiveness inside. And here I'm working a little bit of the background over here. As you can see, I did delete uh, my background boxes, and I'm just tweaking up. I've also set up a short key with Control 0 in order to have my camera over here. And when I press 0 on my keyboard, I'm just gonna go there. And let me finish up a little bit the roof over here because I want to create a little bit more shadow over there. I'm just testing how this shadow is looking. And of course, when I'm placing objects like this, I'm always looking at the ground. I don't care where the object actually is because we are creating a still image. We are not creating a game level, because in a game level where you can walk through the scene, you're gonna be noticing every strange thing that we did for this scene. All right. And I'm just creating here a little bit more spikes because this will be a little bit seen from our angle how the shadow are falling off the wall. All right, I'm just gonna jump to my bookmark over here and I'm just gonna tweak it up, and I'm just gonna create my bookmark with Control 0. So I'm placing my camera over here with a little speed of the camera. As you can see, I'm using the camera speed of 2 in order to create it, and I just press Control 0 in order to set up my camera angle. And let me just tweak up those elements over here. But right now it's not looking pretty good, and I'm just exploring how I can create this scene and at this angle to look good, and how the elements can blend, of course. And pretty straightforward, guys, placing some stuff over here. And here I'm gonna break up the ground with this duplication, and I'm just gonna scale in order to create not repetitiveness in my ground. And all those black spots will add additional detail to the background. And of course, like I said before, you can always use a landscape and just paint over everything with brushes. But I use this method over here because, at least for me, it's quicker to set up. And let me just tweak a little bit more here and just place some interesting rocks. Let me try and break up a little bit the silhouette over here, if this is going to work. And as you can see, I'm just using the rotation and moving, but without the snapping, because I have full control of each rotation angle, of course, and I'm not just snapping to 15 degrees or 2 centimeters, etc. Let me just set up my speed to 4, and let me just work a little bit more on the lighting, because I want to reveal the spaceship. As I told you in my first lecture, the lighting is pretty important, and I want to create this shadow effect over here on my spaceship. And I'm going to be tweaking this until the end of the level, until we are ready with it, and until we are satisfied with it. And you will need to constantly check the lighting from below once you've created it. And as you can see over here, I'm just tweaking up in order to create this nice spiky effect on my ship. I click 0, and now you can see how I lit it up the scene. But it's not my 100% satisfaction with the lighting, so I'm going to be tweaking it a little bit more. The next thing is to delete those boxes and just create the back of it, because when you use the gray box, the lighting bounces and you only have white bounce from the GI, from the global illumination. And when we put those rocks behind it, we get this rockish color onto our snow and ice, because our global illumination is bouncing off this color and just giving our other assets variation of the colors. So that's why you need to get rid of all your gray boxes and just place elements of it in order for the global illumination to lead the scene in a perfect way. And here I'm finishing up a little bit my lighting over here, and I'm getting there of my original idea, as you can see, but still the scene is pretty noisy without all those assets. And here, important thing that I've mentioned in the previous video, always try different colors with your lighting and with the fog, and different settings, because you never know when you're gonna hit a great combination. Of course, you can also test purple, maybe green. You know, this plant maybe have some green gas or purple gas. You can just fine tune and change the lighting. You can simply not use my colors. Of course, you can do whatever you like. And I'm just playing with the source angle, with the color of the fog, with the directional light, of course. And I'm just gonna move a little bit more of the roof in order to create a little more interesting lighting. And I'm gonna move it a little bit out, just like that, because I want lighting to penetrate a little bit to my cosmonaut a little bit more. All right, we are getting there. It's still not finished because it still has to do a few more passes on it, but we are getting it, and we are getting some good results over here. And the picture in my head is getting executed step by step. Here it's pretty noisy, and as you can see, we have pretty much the same detail, and I want to lower it down and move it like that in order to have the focus of the eye of the viewer in the center. As I mentioned before, I'm going to be using the rule of thirds in my composition, so that's what I'm aiming for, and that's why I need to move my cosmonaut or astronaut in the center of the scene and place it above the snow. Let me just check it out over here. Now it looks pretty decent. Of course, we have some more work to do, maybe another few passes in order to get the lighting and everything perfectly. And most of the time, when I scattered all the objects, I start playing with the lighting, and that's one of the important steps, because the lighting is like 50% of your scene, as I've mentioned before. So this is pretty much about this pass, and we're gonna continue on iterating in the next video. Thank you guys for watching. I see you in the next one. So in this part, guys, I just had the idea of external planet where there might be some violent form, like in this beast, which is watching our astronaut over here. And I'm just experimenting placing this beast across my scene where I can create an intense moment of it. Of course, the beast is in the resource folder, and you can use it in your scene in order to create this type of action. And I was just trying to find out if this will work or not, you know. And I end up deleting it and placing a tree, which is my other and first idea. But I was just interested if this is going to work or not. So this is the idea, to test different stuff and to explore and experiment. And of course, I'm just trying to place him over here and just play up with the scale. And this is pretty good. Of course, you can use this and create some kind of your interpretation of the astronaut, the beast, and the vehicle. Of course, I highly encourage you not to copy paste my scene and to create your own idea. Of course, you can use those three models, and this will be a good practice for you guys to create something different, something that you have inside your mind. And of course, here I'm just trying different camera setup with the beast. I want to look over his shoulder in order to create intense moment, but it's not working good for me, and that's why I'm trying different angles. Maybe I can put it to the side of the ship, inside of the ship. Maybe I can scale it up or scale it down. Maybe I can make a swarm of it. For example, you can scale down this beast to be little tiny beasts, and you can place, for example, 10 or 13 all across the scene, which will create an intense moment, like there is some swarm, maybe they're getting out from some eggs, and maybe there's a queen beast which are making those creatures. So there's a lot of possibilities, of course, to create this kind of intense moment and this kind of creature. And here I'm just testing out everything in order to see if this will fit or not. And of course, I'm just playing with it and I'm just placing it over here. It looks good. It's not looking bad, but this is not complying with my initial idea of the cosmonaut and some objects that this planet has to offer, something interesting. But I was, let's try this. But I was like that, let's try this, let's try something different. It might work or it might not work. And I'm just continuing on creating and putting objects inside my scene in order to refine everything. And here I'm just trying to put snow under the beast hand over here in order to look realistic, just like that. And as you can see here, it looks good. Maybe place a little snow back at the tail, scale it up a little bit, move it just like that for the back leg, for the back right leg, in order to look good. I need to support it. Let me just try it like that, or maybe scale it a little bit more. I'm just testing here if this is going to work or not. And this is looking nice at the moment. You have this intense moment, you have this idea of an enemy beast watching our main character, and to the side of his spaceship where he cannot run back and get to his spaceship, to flee or to run away from that beast, or maybe get his equipment, his shotgun or his space rifle. And the other thing that I need to refine is to finish up the level and to tweak up some of the things that I don't like in the scene, which is maybe the lightning, the space ship position, and every object here. I'm just observing it and trying to figure out what I like and what I don't like. So when you create the scene and you think you like it, take a moment, take maybe a minute or two, and think each inch of this picture. Is this item fit there? Is this prop fit there? Is this element fit there? Just take a moment just to watch your scene and think about if something is out of it, and think about the player eye where it will go. And here I'm gonna tweak up a little bit the angle of my light in order just again to test different things. And this is pretty good practices to test alongside, because there are some good things that might came up, and it is called like happy accidents, where you have a brilliant idea just by tweaking and testing some things. All right, so here I'm just tweaking up a little bit more lightning. All right, looking pretty good. I think this is the right angle. And one more thing is I need to tweak up a little bit the walls in order to get that bouncing of GI, of global illumination, and get that color. And I will start and tweak up a little bit more the roof light in order to blend my spiky mountains. Let me just move maybe this a little bit back, or it is the other one. All right, I'm gonna move it a little bit back in order to lit up our beast. Okay, I'm just tweaking some more stuff. I'm just deleting some stuff that I think are not looking good on my scene. And this is the moment where I think about how can I clean up my scene, and how can I make the elements to pop out and to stick there in the scene to look more natural. Here I have a problem with the lightning, as it's not looking too good. I have here this spiky eyes, and it's not covering the shadows good. So I need to fix this. Let me just put them a little bit back. And that's it, guys. Pretty much straightforward. And I'm just showing you how I managed to throw different ideas, how I test testing on each step, and I do the iterations pretty fast. You don't settle on one item, just try different stuff, and you're gonna find out that in the end you're gonna have a great result, guys. I'm sure about it. And another reminder, try to create your own scene. Don't copy mine. I would love to see your scenes inspired by this one, by this course. All right, let me just finish up a little bit the lighting over here. I think it has a little light on my wall, which I want not to have over here. So I'm just gonna duplicate one spike over here and just finish it up like that. And this is looking pretty good, and I need to fill this gap over here in order to have my GI working good. And let's fine tune a little bit the foreground here. Of course, I'm gonna dim this. I'm gonna use vignette effect in order to create this. And I'm just continuing tweaking those things over here. All right. The most important thing is not to give up and always try and fix things that you don't like on the scene. The more time you spend on the scene, the more the scene will look good. And here is my initial idea of creating a tree over here in order to create this effect. And I'm gonna try and create a red light across my beast because it has some emissive channel. So those emissive spots from my beast will emit a little red light. And I'm just gonna place few lights over here and tweak the radius and tweak the intensity of the light over here. Of course, I'm gonna make it to look very subtle, and just to add a little bit of the environment effect over here. And I'm gonna turn off the shadows. Maybe just leave one shadow over here. And I'm just tweaking up to give it a little bit of reddish to the environment around it. And in this way, I'm just faking his emissive channel, his emissive intensity, spreading from his body. Something like this. And let me just tweak it. So this is pretty much about this one. I'm gonna wrap it up and we're gonna see each other in the next video. Thank you guys for watching. Alright everybody, welcome to part 8. Again, I've just speed up the video with 50% in order to be a little bit more quicker. And now in this part we're gonna fine tune more of the objects inside our scene in order to create this this kind of feel to look more final. And right now I'm just testing the scale of our main character to see how the scale will fit in the scene. Let me just try and scale it up accordingly to the beast. And in this chapter, I'm gonna realize that the beast is not appropriate for my scene because the storytelling will not be good. So at the end of this chapter, I'm just gonna remove it. But again, I highly encourage you guys to try it out and try to find a sweet spot for it. Maybe create a swarm like I told you before. And right now what I'm doing is I'm just fixing some of the stuffs that I don't like. I'm just testing some things with the lighting, changing temperatures in order to create different moods. As you can see here, I'm just trying to figure out what cool color should I use. Somewhere in the blue gamma, as you can see over here, because I want to have this cold effect, this cold feeling inside my scene. And I'm just testing and tweaking. And one thing that I've mentioned before is I always test with extremes. What this means is I just don't slide in the blue gamma. I'm testing blue, purple, yellow, everything, just to find out if I can create some happy accidents and maybe like some other color too. And again, just a reminder, always create everything in folders, group everything in folders in order your scene to be clean. As you can see, everything that is geometry are inside my assets folder. And here I'm just playing with the clouds, and I'm gonna finish up and fix some issues on the lighting here. I'm just testing some stuff. I'm just checking out if everything looking good. And this is again another pass of just scattering objects, fine-tuning the objects in order to be more clean. And just a reminder, always try to create a clean scene. Don't overextend with placing too much objects inside your scene. And just test and observe everything. Now I'm just testing and creating another different angle for my camera. Of course, it's a good method to place your camera from the bottom and not from eyesight of a player, because when you place camera near the ground, it is more immersive and the angle is more good and more interesting. And here again, I'm just moving some of my roof parts and just checking out on the ground how my light will look. All right, I'm just gonna speed up the camera in order to get to that point that I can move faster. And I'm just watching my ground below and just fine tuning the light in order to create this interesting light. You need to pay a lot of attention to the lighting in order to create that kind of good mood. As I've mentioned it all over this course, and I'm just gonna keep repeating it, that the lighting is very, very important in order to create the mood of your scene. Here, I'm just filling up the gaps at the background over here and fixing some issues with it. All right. Let me just add a little light over here because I want to fill up a little bit lighting over here in order not to lose the details of the rocks through the fog. All right. And I'm just pushing a little bit intensity, just like that. Maybe make it a little yellowish. I'm just experimenting, guys, with different colors, with different things, and I'm just turning off the shadows in order to fake a bounce light and get that details from the rock, just like that. Let me just put a little bit yellowish like that. Let's tune down the intensity. I just want a soft, subtle shadow, nothing too powerful. Let me just move it a little bit like that. And I can play with the radius, with the intensity, and with the color. And here I'm gonna tweak a little bit more the fog. Let me just see. And always when you try change some stuff on your scene, like the lightning, fog, maybe scatter the objects, always go back to your original view where you're gonna render your piece of art and just see it from that angle in order to get the picture of it. All right. And the most important thing that you need to tweak is the exponential height fog and the directional light. Those two things are the base foundation of what your scene will look like. All right. And the final touch, of course, is the post process, because with the post process, you can achieve the great coloring that we're going to have at the end of the video. And of course, everything will be described in one of the final videos. I'm going to show you my settings for the exponential height fog, of the directional light, of the post process, and you're going to have this as screenshots in the resource folder. All right. So here I'm keep pushing my height fog, and I'm keep experimenting with the scale, with the view distance, with how dense the fog it is, and I'm just playing with the settings. All right. Here I have few point lights. Those are the green and those are the red over here. And I just need to tune down the intensity because it is too much and we have a lot of reddish over here on the snow. And I'm just gonna fine tune some areas that I don't like in order to blend more. And here, as you can see, we have a clean scene. We have a clean view of our astronaut, a clean view of our object, and it's getting more and more good in order with the composition. I'm just gonna need to move this column over here and try if I can create some shadows on the left, but this will block my vehicle, and I'm just gonna get rid of it, of course, because I want to see my vehicle over there. All right. So here is how my scene look without the fog, and when you turn on the fog, you get completely different look. And I'm just gonna try and fine tune my fog density, and it is around the values of 0.203 or 2 in order to create that mood. All right, pretty straightforward process, guys. I'm just playing with it. And let me put 004. I think this is pretty good for my fog. And right now I'm gonna start experimenting with the post process. I'm gonna put on auto exposure, and I'm gonna fine tune my auto exposure to 0.6, maybe something like this. All right. And right now the thing that is off is that beast, which is not looking good inside my scene, and I'm gonna get rid of it at the end of our video over here. And I'm just gonna create and test different stuff on my lenses, on my exposures. The most important thing in the post-process volume are the color corrections, which are the highlights, the contrast. And let's continue on by fixing some of the objects over here. Let's duplicate this pillar and let's place it over here and create a good angle of it in order to add more detail at the edge here, because at least for me it's too repetitive. And I'm just scaling up in order to blend them together. And you don't want to have any artifacts between the blending. So I just want to blend it something like this. And you see that my foundation, the bottom is a little bit off, so I'm gonna tweak it up like that. And I have a little artifact when they connect with the rock up here. So I'm just gonna fix it by moving it over here. And as you can see, we've added another interesting layer of detail at the left column. And I'm gonna fix the roof here. I'm gonna make a little bit of leveling going down by scaling it up. Let's try to rotate it. Let's try a sharp edge over here, if it's going to work. Let me just rotate it, scale it a little bit. But that's too alien. All right. Maybe we can place it over here at the bottom. No. So I'm just testing different stuff. And let's place another column over here. Just like that at the roof, in order to create this a little bit of iciness over here at the rock, because it is too repetitive, and I need to blend it with the rest of the roof. All right, so we keep scattering and fixing some of the objects. Let me just focus a little bit more on the ground and on the right side of my scene. Let's add a little bit of details over here, because it is too repetitive, and I'm just gonna add a little slope over here in order to break up the ground, to have a little rocks, maybe just like this, creating a leveling. Let's test it and rotate it over here. I'm just creating an interesting point, and this will add a little bit more details to the ground, at least at the foreground. And I think that looks good at this moment. Let me just check with another object and try to place something on the right side. But as I noticed at the final version, adding some elements on the left side is going to block my spaceship, and I'm going to lose this interesting point of the spaceship, which I'm not gonna do. All right, so I'm just placing this, and this should be deleted because it's blocking the view on my left side. And right now what is offset is the beast. It is not suiting up pretty good with my spaceship, but I'm gonna get rid of it later on. And I'm just gonna try and test another angle. I'm just testing different angles right now to see if I can place my camera at different angle, creating a different experience. Maybe at the bottom of the beast, maybe at his side. Let's try his side, or maybe top. But as you can see, at least for me, those angles are not working, and my initial first angle was the best at this point. But this is the way in order to experiment and find different angles where you can render your scene. Of course, you can create different angles. You can create a couple of renders and just put them in your portfolio. Not a problem. Let's try a little close-up of our astronaut. That's not gonna work. So I'm just gonna go back to my original, and maybe I'm just gonna tweak it a little bit. Now I'm just taking a little bit of time to observe the scene and think about what can be changed and what points of interest are not good and not suitable for my scene. And that is something that I've mentioned in the previous videos. At some point, stop scattering objects and just observe everything to see where some places are not looking good and other places are looking good. And I have this idea to create a little rock and place my camera on it. So I'm just testing it out right here, if this is look good. But in the end, I think this is not looking good, and my first initial setup with the ground was the best. And right now I'm just gonna try to find another angle too. And I'm gonna fix some of the things that I don't like over here. All right, I'm just gonna move this a little bit over here in order to get that rock. And I'm just gonna place this up. All right, the next step for me is again to start and play with the fog. And this is up and back process where you go, you test, you scatter some object, you fix some objects on your scene, then you go back to your lighting and start creating different lighting, different moods, tweaking up the angles of the lighting, tweaking up the shadows, etc. And I'm just testing out a little more stuff and lighting over here. And those are the three important things: the exponential height fog, the directional light, and the post process. And here I'm just playing with the fog density and fog height falloff in order to try and get the best result of my fog. I don't want it to be too dense in order to lose details, but I want to be enough in order to fill my scene. And I found out that 0.003 and 4 are the best numbers for me. And right now we are getting somewhere. I like the mood, how it looks, and I don't like the beast, so I'm just gonna delete it or just try to place it on my scene somewhere else in order to create some other ideas and experiences. But in the end, I'm just gonna remove it because I think it is off for my scene and for my idea. But of course, guys, I highly encourage you to create your own idea and maybe use the beast and show me your great idea with that beast in mind. As you can see, I'm here scaling it and creating it to be like a little. And as I mentioned you before, you can duplicate maybe 10 of those and just create an immersive swarm of them. And this is pretty much for this pass. And we're gonna continue fine-tuning everything in the next video. And I think everything is getting to look good. Right now we are losing a lot of detail at the background, but we are going to fix that with adding some point lights. And those point lights will give us details in our background, in the rocks in the background. The reason that we are losing details is because of the density of the fog. So thank you guys for watching this one. I'm waiting you in my next video. All right, everybody. So this is our final video when we're gonna finally tweak everything out and create everything to look final. Here I've speed up again the video on 50%, and those are those will be some of the final touches that we're gonna make. This video will be a little bit longer, but it will has a lot of elements in order to finalize your scene. So as you see here, I'm just trying to finalize everything, and I'm just trying to finalize the lighting first. Let me just go up there and fix some spaces, some places that we don't like the lighting. I'm just gonna move this a little bit back. And of course, again, I'm just watching how the shadow is interacting with my surface at the bottom. So I'm just tweaking. What I want to do is I want to place this shadow, and I want to lit only a little bit of the right side of my ship, and don't get too far away from the ship, because I want this lightning to just hover on the right side of the ship and don't get too far away from the ship. And I want not to have so much exaggerated spikes here in the lightning, and that's why I'm just shrinking this up. Here, as you can see, I have achieved almost what I want, just a little lightning over the right place of the ship and not too far away from the ship. This lightning will emphasize on the ship. And here I'm fine-tuning everything by moving them a little bit. Let me just check out again the lightning. The next thing is I want to check out the lightning from different angles. And let me fix this one. Let me just go here. I'm just fixing right now the lightnings in the center where my astronaut is. And let me just rotate this and try to find and create some interesting angle and shape of it. I'm just rotating it because I want the lightning to have some detail in it and not to be flat at all, like a horizontal line. Let me just rotate this a little bit, because as you can see at the bottom of the rock, we have some spiky details, but they're small, and I want this to include in my lightning. And I want to close it a little bit more, just like that. Let me just go here so I can have a better view. I want to close it a little bit because it was too much spread around. And here I'm just trying to focus the lightning only on the two most important elements, the cosmonaut and the tree, all right? So let me just try again and fix some of the issues over here. I think that's looking pretty good. That's better than the open one, at least. But let me just try and fix this with a different way. Let me just go here at the top, and let me just find a good angle of it, just like that. And let's try something like this, not too far away. And always try different stuff, and always move some things. Let me just try how it will look with a closed cave, but it's not looking good. And I'm gonna need to fix a few more things over here. Let me just zoom in. Let me just put my camera on too, in order just to try and find good angle for my shot. Let me just move a little bit further, a little bit up. And again, those are the final fine-tunings of the scene. I'll try some different scale on the tree. Maybe it's a very big tree, all right? And maybe our astronaut is going to be placed over here, a little bit up, because it falls down to the snow. Let me try. If I scale it like that, the scale is like he's far away and this tree is far away, and it's not working pretty good. So I'm just gonna use this scale right now. All right, this is looking good, and I'm just taking a moment in order to analyze everything. Let me just go up here and choose my point lightning, and I'm just gonna delete the red ones because I get rid of my beast. Okay, and right now what a problem is, let me just tweak a little bit the vehicle over here. I need to set up lightnings in the vehicles, because it's too dark in the cockpit. So I'm just gonna put a point light over here in order to lit it up. And I'm just gonna make a point light only on the right side of my vehicle, because the left side won't be visible, I'm going to turn off the shadows over here, and I'm going to delete this one, and I'm going to play with the intensity and the radius. Something like this, and the intensity of 1, maybe 4, 0.4, let's try 0.8, something like this. Maybe I need to duplicate this. Let me just try like that in order to let it. I just want to be a little lit, not too much. And I'm just gonna duplicate this. And as I mentioned in the previous video, we're losing too much detail back at the rocks. So I'm just gonna increase the radius of my light and the intensity. And this way, I'm gonna fake a little bit of lightning back there in order to get the details out of my rocks. All right, I'm gonna tweak up the radius, and I'm gonna put 1, maybe 3 for my intensity, and see how we are getting this detail over here. And I'm gonna duplicate and place some lights over here at the back in order to get this detail too. This is like a little cheating in the lightning, but this is pretty important to light up your scene correctly and not lose this detail at the back, because when you have this fog, it's gonna wash out the detail. But when you lit it up with some lightning, you get back the detail. As you can see, we have now good details at the back. Let me just try something with the foreground. Let me just try to place a little pile over here, if this fits. But I think it doesn't fit too well. I'm still not satisfied on 100% with the placement of everything, and I'm still trying to create a little bit of difference in the details. Let's try a little slope over here. Maybe something like this. And those are my final touches, guys. We're gonna make the final scene here in this video. Let's try and put this, but it's not looking too good, so I'm just gonna delete it. And right now everything looks clean, looks good, but I'm gonna take my time and finish up a few more things. Let's go and play a little bit with the directional light. Let's start playing with the cover. Let's try yellowish. Let's boost the intensity a little bit. And let's decrease it to 0.6, 0.5. I'm just playing with the lighting settings in order to get different moods. And that's something that is pretty important. This is the indirect lighting, where the lighting will light up the shadows. And you can tweak the temperature. As you can see here, I can make it more yellowish, but this is not looking natural to me, as this is ice, and I'm just experimenting with yellow light. And yellow light is not something very common for cold places, but I'm just gonna try it anyway in order to see how it looks. And of course, you can try different variants of colors. You can try green, you can try purple in order to create this environment, a hostile environment maybe, or there is a green planet where there is a green gas, for example. Right now, I'm not pretty much satisfied with this result of the lighting, so I'm just gonna keep tweaking up the things, and I'm just taking a little moment to think and to observe how I want to change it. And I'm just placing this video raw in order for you to get the real feel of how an environment is created. And I'm not just cutting it out with the final results, because the process in order to create such an image is back and forward by testing different stuff. And at least for me, the tutorials that you watch with some people that finalize their scene in 10 minutes, they've done a lot of testing before they reach that point of final scene. And I'm showing you here raw all the data, all the process that I've done in order to achieve that final look. And in order to achieve that final look, you're gonna go between forward and back between a lot of tests. And here right now, I'm just testing with the exponential height for a few things, and I'm testing different colors in order to get the mood right. And this is the most fun part, at least for me, to tweak the lighting and the fog. Now you can see I'm just trying this greenish environment with a little bit of yellowish and the directional light. As you can see, we can get some pretty funky effects with choosing the exponential height fog colors. And I'm just testing and trying out which one will be the best for me. And I think purple is looking pretty good over here. In the end, I end up with a blue one, but purple is still good. And this was an experiment that I've tried, and I was thinking if this was a good lighting or not. And I'm just playing with the temperature of my directional light over here, with the intensity, with the indirect lighting intensity, which will boost up the color in the shadow. And I'm using the exponential height fog. Those are the first steps that you need to finalize your scene. And after you set up those two values, the directional light and the exponential height fog, you're going to move on onto the post process, right? Those are the basic settings for my post process, and you can see here with it or without it. And I'm gonna turn off the bloom over here. Of course, I'm gonna cover in this video the complete post-process settings at the end. But now I'm just showing you how I tweak some settings and just experimenting with the settings of the post-process. This is the exposure, and you have a min and max brightness, and those two values should always be 1 in order to get the right post-process color corrections. If you change this just like that, the min and max value will be different. So I'm just tweaking my midtones right now, and I'm just pulling them up and down in order to get this good look. And I want to aim for a cold feel, so I want the bluish to be my primary color. So I'm getting my gamma in the bluish, and I'm playing with all those settings with the gamma, with the gain in the midtones. And I'm pushing pretty hard, as you can see, in the start, because I want to feel the slider where it should go. Now let's play with the highlights. And the highlights is my lightning over here. And when you push it too further, you're gonna break the lightning. So I'm just gonna place a little contrast maybe. Let's try a little contrast. So now I'm going to go to perspective and choose my cinematic viewport in order to get into the cinematic view, which I'm going to use to render the scene. And as you can see, the depth is different and the camera is different. And now I'm going to make my final tweakings over here onto the objects. I'm just going to move them and check all the angles and everything if it suits perfectly to me. All right, let's just move it a little bit here. And I'm speeding up the process on with 100% in order to get the final look easier. So now I'm just fixing up the lighting over here. All right, this look pretty good. I'm just gonna fix it over here to have the spikes, because I'm missing some of the lighting information here. At least it doesn't look right to me. Maybe something like this. I want here to be big spikes, not so small. And I'm gonna tweak a little bit the astronaut and the tree over here. Those are my final touches that I'm making. I'm gonna make a few more changes at the end of this video, but those are the primary final touches that I'm making in order to get my scene to where I wanna be. I'm gonna fix again, move a little bit the lighting, because I want only just the edge of our vehicle to be lit up. And I'm just gonna try and fine-tune everything to be looking perfect and the lighting to penetrate here perfect. As you can see, I'm not achieving this like a great result because it is a little bit tricky to get it right. Let me just place it over here. That looks better, but it still cover up a little bit of our nose of the vehicle. And I'm gonna move it a little bit like that, and this look better. This looks better. And my idea is to emphasize only on the vehicle face. as it looks like a little dragon, and that's what I like about it. I'm just gonna try and create a little cubes over here in order to cut more the lightning, and this is something that you can fake pretty easily with creating a little geometry over here. And as you can see, I'm just aiming to create a little nice edge over here to cut it perfectly. This is how I create some fixes on the lightning, by creating fake geometry and just blocking the light over here. And this won't be visible as I'm going to put it way above our vision of the camera. So this is something that nobody will notice, but it will help me up with the fixing of the lightning. All right. So let me just see how it looks. It looks good right now. So now we are getting into the final tweaks that I've made. I've speed up the video at 200% just to save you a little bit of time. And after those final tweaks that we've made, I'm gonna show you my settings, how to set up your directional light, environment fog, and post process in order to get the same effect as mine. And here I'm just testing final few stuff and just fixing some areas that I don't like over here. And let me just check out everything. I'm just checking out everything and just moving them slightly and testing few things in order if they will look good. Just like this terrace, a little fix on it. And those are my final touches, guys. I'm gonna spend here a couple more minutes and we're gonna deep dive, and I'm gonna show you how to set up your lightning and environment fog. Right now, this scene is pretty yellowish and doesn't have the final look that I want. But here, I'm just mixing everything and I'm just trying to break up the repetitiveness in my scene and mix all the things together. And as you can see here, I have pretty clean view of my character. Right now it's pretty small, and I guess I should make the scale a little bit more big on our character. But let me first finalize everything, the lightning and everything else. And pretty much everything looks good for the environment, and I'm just making those small changes over here and there. So looks good right now. I'm just taking a few seconds time in order to see how it looks, and I'm gonna play with the exponential fog a little bit more. Here I'm gonna try this yellowish to see how it looks. It doesn't look bad at all. If you want, you can try different colors, not yellow, but in the end it doesn't look like a cold planet if you use this yellowish. And here on the ship, I want to get a little bit of detail over here. And here I have this point light and the intensity. I've switched my scene to the blue tone, and I'm gonna show you after we finish up those last touches how you can set it up. But here I'm just tweaking my point light at the vehicle. I've just moved the vehicle, so I need to replace the green light over here. And in the end product, if I don't like the green light on my ship, I can always Photoshop them and remove them. And this is something that I will do right later on. I figure out that the green was not supposed to be there. And here I'm just checking my lightning, and I just turn off the lightning at the far bottom. And here, as you can see, we don't have details. We are losing details in our rocks. So I'm gonna need to bring up one of the lightning over here in order to get the detail over here. Just like before, in order to get the details, you need to fake a little bit of lightning. Okay, so I got the detail. It looks more natural and more good. And I'm gonna make some final tweaks here on the wall. Something like that, maybe. Something like that. Okay, it looks pretty good. I'm gonna duplicate this one and I'm gonna make it blend here in order to break up the silhouette, the parts, and in order to create a little bit of volume over there. Let me just fine tune it. And as you can see now, I'm touching pretty slightly and rotating pretty small, because those are the final touches that I'm making to my scene. All right, I'm gonna try the edge too a little bit to break it up. Okay, and that looks pretty good, guys. I mean, I'm achieving the result that I want. And I'm gonna scale up this a little bit. I'm gonna compare it to my ship if this fits, just to have it on the seat. And I'm gonna place it wherever I want, and I'm gonna rotate it a little bit like that. All right, this is looking pretty good, guys. All right, so we came up to the part where I need to show you the settings that I have finally in my scene. But this is the scene overall as a final. You can see the lightning over here. You can see the lightning here. You can see where I placed my character near the edge of the shadow, because I want to have space between my cosmonaut and the tree. So let's just dive into the settings that I've set up. So let's first start with the directional light, what I did. So for the rotation, I use 66 on X, 270 on Y, and 198 on the Z axis. Those are the settings for the setup. The next, the source angle is 1.84, source soft angle is 2. I use the temperature slider in order to create the light color with the temperature. I use 4584 for my temperature. I checked box affect the world, cast shadow. Indirect lighting, I put it to 0.5. Volumetric scattering, I put it to 1.21. The intensity is 2.5 lux for the lightning. Moving down, I turn on the cast shadow length into world space units. I turn on the cast translucent shadows. I have the dynamic indirect light checked on. I have the cast static shadows, cast dynamic, affect translucent lightning, cast volumetric shadows checked on. If you have ray tracing, you can turn this on. I also put the deep shadow layer distribution to 0.5. And on the rendering, I have this checkbox ticked, and editor billboard scale is 1. This is set up by default. So those are the settings for my light shaft, as I don't see light shafts over here. But anyway, you can set it up, you can turn it on. The occlusion mask could be 0.29 and the occlusion depth range 92,000. All right, you can turn on the light shaft on the bloom. I turn off the bloom from my post process, so this is not going to work. But if you turn on the bloom post process, this will work. You can set up the bloom scale to 1.08. Moving further, the cascade R2, you can increase the cascade in order to create sharper shadows over here. See how the shadows are turning to sharp, but I want them to blur a little bit, so I put the cascade to 2. The other is for the distribution, the transition is 301, 0.301. The distance fade out is 0.6, and the dynamic shadow is at max. All right, and the distance field shadow is checked on, and the distance field shadow distance is 51K and 200. So this is pretty much for the dynamic lighting. Of course, you can tweak them up whatever you like. The next is the height fog. So my fog density is 0.04. Fog height fog is 2. Fog max opacity is 0.49. Start distance is 40. Fog cutoff distance is 1363 2000. This is the fog cutoff distance. Of course, it is too much, but I've tweaked it up and I just left this value over here because it's working for me, and we are creating a still image. Remember this, guys. The directional in scatter exponential is 27.79, and the scatter start distance is 13K 557. And here are some important things. Volumetric fog is true. Scattering distribution is 0.036. My albedo is pure white with Fs, and my emissive is a little bit in the yellowish gamma, with hex color 61593600. This is the color code if you want to recreate it. The extension scale is 4.69. The view distance is 10K, and start lighting scattering is 0.64. Again, those are turned by default, the visibility, the editor billboard, and that's pretty much about my exponential height fog. And we are going into the last most important thing, the post process, which will create this this effect. Let me just turn it off. See how it's yellowish. Let me just go back to my my view, and let me just show you the post process. All right. we go into my post process. This is maybe the most important thing. So we start with the exposure. I turn off the bloom, as I said, but you can turn it on and increase the intensity if you want to create a little bit of dim, but I want my scene to be more clear, so I turn it off. So metering mode, auto exposure histogram, exposure compensation 0.6, apply physical camera exposure, I check it to true. Here in the exposure compensation curve, I select smooth ramp down. This one is from the Niagara default assets. Max and min bright to 1, the brightness. Next, the vignette effect. Here, in order to soften the edges and create a little bit shadow, 0.43. If I turn it up, you can see how we are adding shadows here at the edges. The next thing, the color gradient and the temperature, pretty important. The temperature here, you can see how it changed my colors. Temperature type white balance and my temperature 3700. This is the key in order to create your scene to be cool. And here are some post-process things that I've done in my contrast. So the contrast on the RGB scale is 0.99 and the B is 0.99. I just make them white slightly, and they're just adding a little bit of detail here. And this is in the shadow section. So in the gamma, I used 0.8 for R, 0.82 for G, and in the gain, 0.81 for R and 0.87 for B. And let me show you what this whole section do. If I turn this off, you can see here in the shadows, gamma, gain, offset, contrast. All right, so I'm just adding a little bit details here at my shadows. So this is for the shadows, and the next one is the midtones. Let me just turn it off. We are just adding a little bit of midtone over here. So I use the gamma, 0.96, 0.98 for the G, and a little bit of gain, 0.89 for both of the R and G. All right. And the last thing, global illumination, lumen scene lighting quality to max, details to max, lumen scene view distance to 20K, final gather to max, max trace distance to 20K. And that's pretty much about the post process that I've created over here. And by adding those numbers, if you follow my my guidelines over here, if you want to replicate the same effect, you can just plug them in, as I've already told you, or if you miss something, you can find the settings in the resources folder. So this is pretty much how you set up your fog, lighting, and post-process. And finally, when you are ready with your shot, you created the camera angle and you finished everything here. You set up the lighting, you set up everything. You go over here to the three dots, to the three lines over here, and you go to the high resolution screenshot. Click here, and here you can multiply the size of the resolution, so you can create very high resolution screenshot. But right now I'm using one, and you can create a screenshot from here. I click capture, and it shows the directory where my screenshot is taken. So you can click over here and go to your folder. And after that, I've touched a little bit in Photoshop, but very little. So I've put a brightness over here with 5 of brightness. I've put a photo filter, cooling filter, LBB with 8% density. And I've played a little bit with the hue and saturation, which is plus 20, to have a little bit more colorful scene. So if I turn them off, you can see that I lose some color, and I just adjust those things in order to get the final image. So thank you guys for enrolling in this course. I will be glad to see your final results, so share them with me, and I'll be happy to give my feedback. Again, thank you so much for supporting, and I hope this course was pretty helpful for you in order to establish your mindset and give you an idea how you can create perfect looking still images. Thank you guys again. I see you in my next courses.